Hey everybody, I'm here in Chiang Rai, Thailand, working on Freedom Farm Academy, Chiang Rai, Thailand. It's going to be a huge project to produce food and medicine for the local community and basically operate as an education site for the local farmers so that they can stop using chemicals, learn a new technique to grow their food. But basically I wanted to show you this pond, this great pond system they have here. See this pipe? This is called their cloud pond. There's fish in there. It's the highest point on the property. So that's important. This pipe, when the water line fills up in the wet season, it's going to get to this pipe and it's going to drain in that pipe and it's going to go downhill just by gravity to this other pond that they call the moon pond. It's in the shape of the moon. So this being the highest point on the property, this pond is going to collect water first. And there's moon pond, sun pond, star pond, and then a duck pond that are all going to collect the water progressively. Once this one fills up, it's going to go to the moon pond. Once the moon pond fills up, it's going to go to the sun pond. Once that fills up, it's going to go to the star pond. Once that fills up, it's going to go to the duck pond. So another cool feature of this is that since this pond has fish in it, it's going to be edible fish, first of all, and it's going to create a really fertile water. All the excrement that the fish produce is going to go to all the other ponds and just create a greater biological ecosystem for all the plants and the animals eventually that are drinking the water. And then they can use that water as fertilizer for their plants. So basically I'm going to show you this pipe that goes to the moon pond, and then I'm going to show you the other pipes. All right, so I'm down here at the moon pond now. You can see the cloud pond in the distance there. It's a higher elevation. It's maybe 50 yards or so from here. And so the pipe that I highlighted over there, once that pond fills up in the wet season, it's going to drain here. So this is the highest point of the moon pond. Technically, this is actually going to be a waterfall feature for the moon pond. People are going to walk across here, hear the sound of the water. It's going to be really nice. So this little area is going to fill up with water, and then it's going to come down here, waterfall feature, and then drain into this giant moon pond. This is by far the biggest pond on the property. And it is gigantic. It's big enough that it's going to have like a kayak and canoe kind of activities in it. So when this pond fills up, it's going to go to another pond. And I'll show you the next part of that right now. All right, so I'm about midway in the crescent part of the moon pond. And I wanted to give this opportunity to see the water level. So obviously the water is going to stay level, but the banks of the moon pond vary. So where we just were, over by the waterfall feature, is going to be the highest part of the bank. And you can see maybe behind me, the bank above the water line is a good freaking 10 feet at least on this side. But then over here at the far end of the moon pond, the banks are much shallower, and that means this end of the moon pond is going to act as the spillway. When the moon pond fills up, this is the lowest point, and it's going to drain out of this side. And I'll show you what happens over there right now. Okay, so now we're here at the most shallow end of the moon pond. What I call the spillway. What is the spillway for this pond? It's the lowest point. So when the water line comes up eventually, it's going to spill out of this side of the pond. And specifically, I'm going to show you this cool feature. See this blue pipe here, right here? That's on a swivel. It's like an elbow in a pipe, a right-hand angle, a right angle. And that's movable so that they can adjust when the water starts to drain out of the pond. All right, here's a little bit more close-up view of the pipe. As you can see, the opening of the pipe is about a foot above the water line right now, and it can be lowered or it can be heightened above the water line. And so that means they can adjust how much water fills up in the moon pond before it starts to drain. I'll show you where it drains to right here. You know, just across this path, the pipe's going underground, maybe 15 or 20 feet or so. And it's going to drain out here, create a little kind of another little waterfall feature. It's going to fill up this little pond when the moon pond is full. And you can see over here, right there, there's another spillway, and see how that's the lowest point around the embankment of the pond? That means when that pond fills up, it's going to go that way. out of the spillway, goes south, and we're going to create another swale, which basically just holds water. We're going to create another swale for it to go all the way to the sun pond, and then, this is the star pond, and then it's going to go even further in the distance to the sun pond. So I just wanted to show everyone this as an example of what they can reproduce on your property. As long as you have a little bit of a slope on the property, put a pond at the top highest elevation of your property so that you can manage where it goes downhill. You can spread the water out so that you can use it in the plant systems that you need it in. It's really important to do that here because in Thailand they have about 6 months of a dry season and 6 months of a wet season. And when the wet season comes, there's a ton of rain and you need water management so that it doesn't flood out, your beds and stuff that you've already created, and you have high value crops in there. So what we've done here, what Food Forest Abundance has done here, with several designers at Food Forest Abundance have helped create, is this genius water system that's helped feeding the landscape and helped to give an example to the local community on how they can better manage their farms. So right in the distance behind me, that's all rice paddies. That is not part of the property yet, but we're trying to change that. And these farmers are producing their rice with chemicals. But basically why I mention that is because rice is grown in shallow water called a rice paddy. And it has to be there even in the dry season to grow their rice. So you have to really manage the water in Thailand. And I'm just showing you this as an example. It can be used elsewhere though, like I said. But just look at this great landscape. All this yellow flower behind me, that's all sun hemp, which is a legume, a nitrogen fixing plant. If you look at the little flowers, they kind of look like pea flowers, like peas. And that's common to all legumes. But this is all going to be used as chop and drop, which means they're just going to chop all this down and leave it on the ground to feed the soil. It's especially useful when you have disturbed soil, because all the construction here for the ponds, there's exposed soil, and you don't want that in permaculture. You're killing the ecology of the soil when you have exposed soil. So all this area is going to be all kinds of stuff, you'll see. But it's going to be chop and dropped and just left on the soil like a mulch. You'll see eventually this property is going to be education site, food production, agro-tourism. There's going to be food stands for the locals. There's going to be a medicine garden, meditation gardens, all kinds of great stuff.